with no father in the house, who was quite strict at the time, my father, typical Italian father, with him not around and my mother trying to make ends meet means that, you go on a journey, right, with no one to guide or sort of support. So the challenge was watching my mum back then. I remember she was scared to go outside to the letterbox and, get the mail, because she knew in the mail that there was going to be these bills, and when you watch your mother, at 10 years old, open the water bill, and I could see in her face at that point that she didn't know how we were going to pay it. Like that's a thing that stayed with me most of my life, man, I'll be honest. So, we went from this financial high to this like down crash low, and I stopped talking to my father for many years because I had that resentment towards him. I blamed him for everything, basically. So,
And you kind of feel like they just left all the hard stuff for you to deal with.
Agree.
For your mum, your sister.
Yeah, so my sister stepped in, tried to take on the financial burden. We had to sell our family home that my dad and my nunu had built with their hands, literally. We lost our home. We moved to a smaller duplex to restart this new life. And my mum, she was a trooper, man. She worked 2 jobs, to really put, what we could on the table, right, at that point. And so money back then actually became like this real devil in the household, like to talk about money, to ask for money.
Yeah.
I remember my mum saying things like, money didn't grow on trees, Ben, like we just don't have the finances. I couldn't buy the boots that other guys were buying at that point. I couldn't play certain things. I couldn't do certain. Mum didn't have the money to do so.
Yeah.
So, growing up in the streets, Ron, and because we went to the same school together, you just got to try and make ends meet, man. You got to get out there and do some silly things and things that I regret doing. But I guess that's where it shapes you, So fast forward all of that. My family, although, look, this is my story too. Let me pre-frame that, I'm not saying that I had a harder time than anybody else. I know that people have been through some serious stuff and, it's just what happened to me at that time.
It's your story, and your story isn't better or worse than anyone else, but it's something that you had to deal with that shaped your life.